G'day everybody, it's Dan from Relevance here. Today I'm joined by Jason again. Some of you might know him better as AI Jason. Jason, why are we talking today?
Yeah, so have you saw recently, for the past few days, people have been talking about on Twitter, this like thing called Swarm introduced by OpenAI?
Yeah, talk us through what is OpenAI's Swarm package?
Yeah, so Swarm is basically a kind of open source framework for people to build kind of multi-agent setup. It basically has two key concepts. So far, OpenAI mainly has an API for developer to use. You can just call it and it sends back to one message. You can build kind of simple agents. But what Swarm introduced is kind of two key components. One is the agent runtime. It is a combination of instructions and tools. So you can build a normal simple agent that you can build on Relevance AI or any other agent platform really that give instruction, autonomously complete task.
Yeah, I think it's a good time to clarify for some of the users who maybe used OpenAI for ChatGPT or to make LLM prompt completion calls, but like, what is an agent? What is this new concept they're talking about?
Yeah, so maybe if we revert back to the beginning of the large language model, what people really use that is for something called prompt completion, which means you will give one sentence, write me a block, and then it will just complete this sentence to finish that actual block. But what agent really cool about is that you can utilize those kind of text prediction ability to predict what kind of functions I need to call to complete a certain task. Then you can use the response that it returns to actually run these functions so that you have an agent that not only can complete text, but can also complete tasks based on the goal you were given.
Right, so rather than just using the models to do things like write blog posts and write large pieces of text, we can get the models to decide what tools to use to complete some sort of task. That's called an agentic reasoning engine. And OpenAI with Swarm have released their first library, I guess, for helping people build those sort of agents using their models.
Yeah, exactly. So there are two parts, as we mentioned before. The first one is the agent runtime, which basically makes this single autonomous agent building easier. So you can just spin up an agent, give it tool and instruction. That's kind of nothing new. The new part, I guess, is the second component called handoff. Agent can call another agent using some kind of function like transfer to blog post generator or CMS manager who can interact with CMS. So once it finished, it can basically call this function, and then it's almost like a group of agent has a talking flow. You can transfer to the other agent when you think it's the other agent's responsibility. So that's kind of second part of the Swarm. Basically, agent plus this handoff process.
Right, so previously we could use models to do sort of text generation, and then OpenAI let us call functions from their models, and now we have the ability to create these sort of agentic reasoning agents using this new package. Talk to me a bit about the difference then just between that function calling process and the handoff process, like they call it in Swarm. Like, what is the difference?
Yeah, probably can revert back to why multi-agent concept is interesting. So initially, for the beginning of 2024, people has been just building this different type of agents that can do action, really cool. But very quickly we realized to actually complete business process, they're very complex. And when you give one agent a giant list of SOP as well as giant list of tools, it often just fail and couldn't follow instruction. So one kind of technical direction people are striving for is this multi-agent setup, which means you break down a heavy workflow into small specialized agent to be able to complete very specific tasks. So the concept makes sense, but the question is how do you actually orchestrate this process between different agents? The very first version of the implementation, I guess people were hacking, we were hacking back then, was just using normal function calling, which means we'll have manager agent, and then this manager agent can have 5 different tools. Each tool is basically a send message to one of the agent. So that's kind of one kind of hacky way we were doing that. But the problem with this kind of pure function calling based multi-agent setup is passing context between agents is not easy. You basically need to plan very early on what kind of information I need to pass on to the sub-agent, because sub-agent has no idea what kind of thinking process the manager has went through or other agents. And what this handover process is interesting is that, so the way it implemented is each agent can have multiple different tools that call other agent. But when I call the other agent will have the full conversation of what I have been going through before. So it's almost like a talking flow. I just give it talking flow to you. You will inherit all the past chat history. So you don't need to really worry about how do I pass some context effectively. What made this framework quite interesting because, to be honest, this is not a very effective way of passing context. You don't really want to do that because that would just cost so much token. But it's really easy. And that's also back up like why people think they are building this. They made it very clear it's not for production ready usage, but this is more for education purpose, for people to have a play like, okay, how can I set up those kind of multi-agent assistant instead of building everything into one agent.
Right.
And just have that explorative playground for them to have play.
So it's almost more like a example, like a playground. I guess this begs the question, like we work at a company helping people build these multi-agent systems at Relevance AI. Should we be worried about OpenAI dabbling in the agent world? What do you think their purpose is? Yeah, interested in your thoughts there.
Yeah, I guess from my point of view, there are probably two parts. One question is, can this Swarm framework replace the current production level multi-agent system, like AutoGen, CoreAI, and Relevance AI, right? For that one, I think it's actually not really there yet. They made it very clear it is not for production usage, it's more for education purpose. Because when you try to bring this multi-agent system into production, there are a lot of optimization you need to do. Like, how do you actually manage to pass on memory or chat history between different agents? Most of the time, you don't want to pass the whole conversation. And also, you often need a more sophisticated way in terms of design the communication between agents. So they introduce one communication method, which is handoff. But quite often, you might also have like a group chat for like ideation process, or you have a kind of more linear step-by-step process that you define, or you might have something in the middle. So there are a bunch of like mechanism will be needed to guide and orchestrate the collaboration between different agents. So from that point of view, I think it's not that worrying because it's actually very hard to build something in production with that framework. It's super lightweight.
Is there a chance that they've done this because of the recent hype around agents, that, you know, Salesforce releasing their agents, HubSpot have done a similar thing? Do you think this is just OpenAI's attempt to get into the discussion of agentic workflows?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. My gut feeling is that OpenAI have a few attempts when you think about to get into agents. So far, where they became really successful is one fully packaged consumer-facing product like ChatGPT or API product. Previously, they tried like custom GPT. It just never took off, custom GPT so far. So that part of the market, I guess, potentially they try to validate, is there a world exist for them to build this type of agent building platform? And that didn't work out. Maybe now they're trying to say, okay, maybe we should still more focus on developers, but we need a way to educate people. Like, how can you move further up more than just a single agent into multi-agent setup so you can build more production-ready application, which might consume more API consumption. For our platform, we know when we talk to customer, one question they just keep bumping at the beginning is like, okay, multi-agent sounds great, but like, how can I break it up? How should I design a system? So with this type of educational framework, hopefully it will bring more awareness and best practice out of people. Like, how do we design this production-ready agentic system? In return, probably would be good for them in terms of API consumption.
Makes a lot of sense, right? So they had their swing at trying to get onto like the fully packaged agentic sort of play with custom GPTs. Didn't work out. But they see that the agent industry is growing, that there are lots of solutions now popping up using agentic reasoning. So they're saying, okay, well, we can help facilitate that. Here's how you guys can use our API. Here's how you might think about orchestrating agents. And then if more users are successful at that because they've taken inspiration from Swarm, then OpenAI makes more money. That makes a lot of sense, but I think it actually begs a really interesting question for me, which is, right, like, you are the lead product designer here at Relevance. We're building our own multi-agent framework. What does OpenAI, a large language model provider, you know, one of the big names in this industry, releasing their own agent framework, what does that make you feel? What do you think that means for us as a company?
I actually feel pretty good. If Swarm package succeed, what will end up happening is that it will bring a huge amount of awareness about why multi-agent system is important and why people should build it. But the moment they start bringing stuff into production, they will realize there are a lot of problems and holes and efforts to actually build it. For example, you probably need multiple different ways to orchestrate the collaboration between different agents. You also need an effective way to manage the memory and the conversation history to pass on between different agents so they have context. And apart from that, you will also need a UI for the end user to interact with the system. So if you think about persona of a RevOps person in the company or a founder of a small business, you probably don't want to spin up everything that we just talked about. And you definitely don't want to worry about like integration, authentication, things like that. So there is a huge opportunity for building those kind of production-ready agentic system. And Swarm package, I think, will just bring a lot of awareness to this use case. But what we should really double down is how can we build infrastructure to support those kind of more sophisticated workflow? And second is how can we bring kind of innovative human and UX and interactions so that users don't need to build those type of UI by themselves.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think if you think about what we've learned at Relevance from helping build out really complex multi-agent systems like our BDR agent Bosch, it's that getting 2 or 3 or 4 agents to interact with each other and be able to call each other is just the very beginning. You need to be able to test all of your agents regularly in bulk, evaluate how your changes anywhere in the multi-agent system affects different parts of your system. And also, like, one thing we've seen to be really clear is that these agent systems don't work well unless they've been instructed and guided by domain experts, right? So when we look at our sales agent, until we got our sales team to really influence how it does messaging, how it does research, the agent is not going to do work to the quality that it needs to automate work in any company. So being able to give those sort of non-technical domain experts access to the insides of an agent system, we've found to be crucial. So I think I agree with you. It's actually quite cool that OpenAI are releasing experimental packages, bringing more awareness to agentic systems. But when you try to really build something serious, when you try to automate real work, you realize that it's just the tip of the iceberg. And I think that's why you use a platform like Relevance AI.
Exactly.
Well, it's been a great chat. It's an exciting time, as it always is in the AI space. We're going to continue to share our learnings as a multi-agent system platform. Make sure to subscribe if you want to hear anytime there's big news in the industry. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching.